Should the U.S. go to all metric highway signs? No! So I recently went for a drive through the cemetery in Independence, Kansas, and I came across the grave of the late Adolf Wildegrube, or maybe it was pronounced Wildegrube. I'm not 100% sure. I'm sorry. If you haven't ever heard of this man before, that's okay. But some people say he, more than any other person, kept the U.S. highway system from converting to metric. Oh, and let's get this out of the way. He was born in 1919, so obviously he was given his first name before Hitler ruined it for everybody. Moving on. So, as most of you all know, there has been talk at times in the history of the United States about adopting the metric system for our highways. But it's never gotten, well, it's been kind of serious at times. It's never actually happened yet. But one of those times was, I sort of even remember hearing about this. In the late 80s and early 90s, there was some pretty serious talk about converting to the metric system for the U.S. highways. Well, Mr. Wildegrube, who, if you read his obituary, which is available online, you can find it doing a Google search, retired from his day job in 1992. Around that time, I think a lot of this talk was going on. He didn't like the idea of us, the U.S., converting to metric for its highway signs. And apparently he got pretty vocal against it. And even though he's not a household name, probably somebody you haven't heard of before, he was kind of well known in Independence around that time for making his voice heard on this issue. And he had a property along U.S. Highway 75, just a few miles north of town from Independence, and he set up a sign. His sign said, "All U.S. metric highway signs? No!" And even after the debate was apparently settled, he kept that up there for many, many years. You know, what exactly did he do other than put up a sign against the idea in his yard to raise awareness? You know, I really can't say with 100% certainty at this point. I imagine he did things like contacting his elected officials, writing letters, making the idea known. Mr. Wildegrube, I met him on several occasions back years ago. It's been almost 20 years since I last seen him, when I was starting out as a newspaper reporter in Independence. Even after the highway debate had apparently been settled, which obviously there's references to it on the back of his gravestone, he continued to kind of be known around town for his presence at local government board meetings, expressing concerns that they spend the taxpayers' money wisely, that sort of thing. I certainly, even when people disagreed with him or elected officials disagreed with him, I certainly cannot recall him ever speaking to anybody in a way that would be considered disrespectful or especially antagonistic. He was always a good speaker in the sense of, treating people with respect, respectfully disagreeing, you could say. And despite the fact that he attended many a public hearing or public meeting in his adult life, he seems to be best remembered around independence for his stance against the metric system. Now, I personally don't want our highways to convert to metric either. I guess my thinking is, one of the things I like about not being on metric is we tell time by the hour in increments of 60 minutes. Well, a lot of our highways in the U.S. have speed limits of 60 miles per hour, give or take a 10 to 15 mile per hour difference, right? So to me, if you're traveling on a highway at 60 miles an hour, that's kind of a good bar for an average speed. That's an easy enough way to calculate how long it's going to take you to get places. It's by how many miles there are, and if you're driving down the highway, how fast you're driving. I think it's pretty simple, but that's just me. So, this is the grave of, once again, Adolf Wildeboer. So obviously this man lived a long time and did a lot of things, but his opposition to the metric system for U.S. highways was legendary. Thank you for watching, and please click like and subscribe.